Good afternoon, everybody. Emma here. How you doing? Hope you're all well. We're just waiting for we'll just probably wait another minute before we start, if that's okay. Looking forward to chatting to you all today. Can't believe we're at the start of another season almost. It's madness. But really pleased to be able to be doing this session today. It will be recorded, just to let you know. And it will be put onto the member portal. So if any of your colleagues in your teams want to come and have a listen back, that's you're more than welcome to pass the information on. So we'll just wait another one more minute, just in case we get any late people joining a little later than normal. So make sure you've got yourselves on mute, although I think the system probably auto mutes you anyway, and we should be able to auto unmute later so that you can ask any questions, but feel free to use the questions and answers box or the chat, and we'll answer as we get towards the end. There's a fair number of slides to go through, but actually it's a great flow of information, so I'm hoping that everybody will have some great key takeaways today. I've made a mini list so I can kind of recap at the end. So feel free to ask as you go, no problem. So hello to everyone joining the call today. My name's Emma. I'm Vice President of Global Sales here at HotelREZ. I've been here for probably as many years as the dinosaurs were on Earth long ago. So most of you know me. If you don't, welcome to joining one of our webinars. I enjoy doing them. I like talking, so I'll try and keep it sweet for you today. And joining me to my left, we have the lovely Laura Creswell, who is part of our Cvent team, and she is our Principal Solutions Consultant over there with Cvent, and she'll do her introductions later. And also, as most of you know, Hannah in my team is also here, and she's my wingman too on the right hand side. Just make sure everything's working as you do. So great that we are having this meeting today. I'm going to share my screen so we can start rolling forwards and start our chatter today. Hopefully we won't have any technical glitches, and hopefully you'll be able to see my screen. Give me a shout, Hannah, if you can't.
Yeah, all good here.
Fabulous. So I cannot believe I'm saying it, but here we go again with a new RFP season. It's just crazy how quickly the time goes. We need to start getting ready, guys, and start thinking about everything to do with RFPs as we start now to gear up for yet another season. I'm going to walk you through my slides. I'm going to talk to you about what's on the agenda this afternoon rather. So we're going to have a quick intro. We're going to talk about RFPs. We're going to talk about GDS and its importance. We're going to run through content and the RFP tool solution we have in place. We're going to have some slides which Laura has kindly prepared, and we want to share with you as regards what's going on within Cvent platform for lead generation and RFPs that are coming through and what to expect, some of the trend knowledge shared out for you, which we thought would be great. And also my considerations and tips for driving some more sales, which I know is what's on everyone's agenda. We also have something to mention as regards the business cases and how to work for this season. And finally, it will be a quick questions and answers and also how to contact us. So without further ado, the GDS. So you know that this is the most important channel for driving your corporate and leisure business. It currently represents over 650,000 worldwide travel agencies who all book for business people and high-end leisure guests. We, of course, want to partner with as many TMCs, agencies, get you connected and help you drive that very important channel. Make sure you're getting your market share of business. And we know how buoyant that GDS channel is, given the fact that back in 2023, it produced over 68 million bookings. So currently the split between receiving corporate and leisure business is about 70% corporate and around 30% leisure. Although the balance on the scales is always kind of moving because it depends on geopolitically where we are and what's happening. Here's a quick reminder from me, just a couple of housekeeping points for you when you're starting to think about RFPs and what you need to do to get prepared. It's just a quick reminder that the REZ to Market tool is the home of all content for all of your systems you use with us. So if you have made any changes on your hotel content piece, be sure to make sure you log into REZ to Market and follow through on updating on changes. This will then be cascaded up onto the various platforms that are needed in order for you to receive business. Please don't forget that we do populate your GBTA questions into the Cvent tool for you, and this just makes everything a lot more simple for completing RFP bids. We're talking quite a bit more on Cvent a bit later, but this is just a reminder, a polite reminder for everybody that is producing and working on corporate RFPs. If you do receive any RFP bids and you want to have them loaded into Cvent in order to complete, then you can just email the demand team, which is my team, and we will of course load them onto that platform for you so that you can complete them in one place. It's good to have everything centralized, isn't it? So updating your content is key, making sure that you are ready with any of those quick changes, quick updates, you know, about perhaps you put EV charging points in your car park or something really key for a corporate that's important. Reviewing those reference points on the tabs where you can add in any new corporate organisations that are within vicinity of your property. Making sure that you have got all of your actions ready to go and that you update the support team with every change that you've made so that they can populate that into tools. Your Cvent access, if you're needing Cvent access and you have a team of people that are new to dealing with RFPs for your hotels, we do need to create your credentials on that particular platform. The way to do that is to contact our support team on support@hotelrez.com, and our team will ensure you can gain access to the tool that way. I've also added a note to say to please let us know if you are having any changes to who in your team will be responding to RFPs. This is super important to let us know. As back of house on our global sales desk, we need to make sure that we are firing all of those notifications off in the right direction for you. There's going to be some actions for you to do, and one of them is to make sure that your blackout dates and fair dates are populated into the Cvent tool. Great news for everybody on the call today is that there are some recorded training tutorials available via the member portal so that you can learn at your own pace on how you need to do this, where you need to click, and exactly why it's important information for you to do it ahead of RFP completions throughout the autumn period. Also, that's the place where in the member portal where you can access the guides for Cvent and also for REZ to Market. So if you've got a team that, or you're an established team, but you haven't come back around to doing this work since last year, please feel free to download the guides and to go at your own pace. It feels a bit odd to talk about this point before we've had all of the Cvent conversation, but of course this is a downloadable guide for you, so you'll be able to pull off all of my top tips for driving more corporate sales. And I feel like I want to mention it now because we're starting to think about driving more and getting more corporate sales to the properties that we're working with. So I've put together some top tips for what you can be considering in order to drive for more. So attracting more business travellers with your services. So I think about the offer that you have. Is it free Wi-Fi? Do you have a gym? Is it large desks? What about shuttle services for easy transportation? Perhaps you're close to an airport or maybe very close to rail links, etc. How do you communicate that to your travellers? Do you have safes that have got laptop spaces? That's really important for a business traveller. Adequate power outlets. There's nothing worse than trailing your wires across your hotel bedroom, is there? I'm sure we've all had to do it at some point. Healthy catering, healthy eating options, and also any wellness offerings that you're now doing. A lot of hotels have started to think about adding those benefits in for corporates, and think about how you can get creative with your offer. Perhaps you have a yoga class or something that you're doing a discounted offer for corporates to join in, or something like that. Don't forget as well, close proximity to corporate offices is vitally important. So showing somebody that you know where they are is great, and it's showing them that you've paid attention to where their buildings are in relation to your hotels. Ensuring that your hotel information is kept up to date, which I know we've just touched on in the previous slide, but making sure you're season ready is vitally important now. It's going to help to really showcase the best offer that you are out there in that market. So think about parking and what you offer, think about your bedrooms and what your rate and room descriptions might look like, and also ensuring that your public areas and what you offer for a guest once they arrive with you right from check-in point, and everything is detailed. Try and understand also what your client booking needs actually are. I think taking time to connect with customers is vitally important, and understanding if their business is a short-term project, a long-term project, a new corporate to the area. What is it that they're utilising your property for, and how can you then start to think about perhaps why you might not be getting some of that, and if they're using a competitor hotel, finding out a little more about why you've taken the booking this time, but obviously previous times they've stayed in an alternative hotel. Making sure that you analyse your existing databases is really going to help you with that project. So understanding all the booking leads that are coming through via different channels and databases that you've got. It really is great data for you to mine. And we talk to the hotels about that kind of best practice on that during our reviews with our account management team. Prospecting your local market is vital. We need to know, for you to know, be a foot soldier, go out and have a look around and see what's new to market out in your areas. And perhaps if you haven't had that drive from the motorway into your property recently, it might be a chance for you to do that. Also, just think about whether this client is a more local client and needing just a local rate, or is it national, or does it also have global capacity? Think about what you need to do to partner. As we know, there's higher ADR with corporate bookings. And so we want you to make sure that you're really focusing on how you can maximise more corporate business. The leisure bookings are great bookings to have, don't get me wrong, they're still good ADR, but I feel like you'll get more on property spend, you'll have more traction with the guests, and you'll be able to understand what more's on offer for you once you start to understand who it is. Please do feel that you can get creative with your offers. Start thinking about discounts for F&B or amenities that you've got. Make sure people know what your in-room dining options are, or your local partner dining options. That's vitally important. What's close by, how to get the best out of a discount there, and what you can do. Some people are very happy to walk out and go and have dinner in an alternative place. Some people like to just have dinner when they land. Depends on the person. I feel also that it's important to mention about offering meeting room hire, meeting space discounts. A lot of the corporate market have started now to come back to hosting meetings and events. So it's good if you have got the space to be thinking about the extra offer you can give with a meeting discount, particularly if you've got the space. So the corporate customer of today is your traveller of tomorrow, and they are your blended travel leisure booker. So make sure you're offering a discounted bounce back rates, or if you're part of a group, making sure somebody's familiar with what else you have got within your collection to offer. I mentioned parking a couple of times. Parking is still quite crucial for corporates, and public transportation awareness, again, making everything easy. showing the corporates that it's easy to get to, you're easy to find, and you're doable on foot or by car is super important. Showcase how sustainable you are as well. Give your corporates all the reason to be partnering with you because you offer sustainable services, whether that might be reduced plastics, carbon emission monitoring, however you do it at property. Make sure your customers are aware that you are in that framework and able to offer options. Ensure also that you take part in any additional corporate RFPs that we launch, because we have additional bids that come throughout the season outside of our main partner bids. And these are really great highways, super highways, into getting to understand what other corporate business these travel agencies and TMCs have for you. You can also take time to review any paid programs that are coming in via the Cvent tool. And these are very dedicated for corporate travel and a really good way of getting involved in taking some market share from comp sets. Just going to pause there for a minute. So talking about the global consortia, many of you are on our pay on performance model. You won't see a number of the major consortia bids coming through on your Cvent platform because there is no real need for you to complete them on there unless we stipulate something different. Back of house, we submit for you. We make sure all of our major consortia have got your data and know your rates. By having a pay on performance agreement with HotelREZ, it saves your property over $25,000 of signing up for different programs throughout the season. There is a note to say that there are some additional paid programs that you need to consider, and I've listed a couple below here. So DER, American Express, and also Internova, and perhaps CWT Sato as well. So this one, these will be made available via the Cvent tool, and we will look to be doing some spotlight presentations with some partners just while we start to wind up for a new season. So look out for dates. I'm going to stop presenting now, and I'm just going to just see if I can get just bear with me a second. I don't know how we're going to do this. I think I can possibly Laura, can you see if you are able to share from your side? And you should be able to jump straight back in, but if not, don't worry, I can be your slide master.
Wonderful. Let me just check. I can. Actually, I thought you were going to share. Apologies, and that's my bad. You did say that you would pass it back to me, but I'm happy for you to drive and be slide master because you're
Fabulous.
Very good at using it. And yeah, Teams is not my forte. So if you don't mind, yes, please be slide master.
That's cool. All right, just shout me along when you're ready.
Yeah, wonderful. So no expectations for anyone on the call to read this forward-looking statement. The gist of this is that the data that I will be sharing is directional. It's true at the time of sharing it, but of course we've all lived through a pandemic. We know that things can change, and we hope we don't have to go through another one, but it is directional. So as we move on.
1 second.
Emma.
Thanks. Oh, there you are. That's a lovely picture.
It's not AI. They're all my wrinkles and they're all my grey hair, and that's me. But as Emma said, I look after the HotelREZ account, and if Emma has any questions, or if you have questions, or Hannah has questions from you guys, they'll all come via me eventually. So today, for my part of the agenda, I will be talking a little bit high level about the different buyers that source on the Cvent Transient platform. Then I'm going to jump straight into the global trends that we're seeing on our platform for the 2026 contract period or contract year. We'll then cover off some best practices and also some property level solutions that could support you as hoteliers as you go through the next RFP season. Now, everyone's referring to us as Cvent at the moment. Just to be clear, the data that I'm going to share now is related to the Cvent Transient platform. And in case you've been in the industry some time, you might think of it more commonly as Lanyon. And of course, as the agenda suggests, I'm going to be on the call and available for questions at the end. Okay, so looking then at our buyer customers. So ultimately, we have a very broad reach. We work with a lot of Fortune 100, Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 customers, and these are Forbes results of top companies rather, based on their worth. So we work with a lot of companies, but also we work with a lot of different industry verticals. And you can see on the next slide that whether it's oil and gas, pharma, finance, or tech companies, we work with a lot of the top companies within those industry verticals. So again, not just a wide breadth in terms of the value of companies, but also the different industry verticals that they represent. We're always looking to get new logos. Here are some of the new logos that we acquired towards the end of 2025 for the 2026 RFP season. Hopefully some of you recognise these and maybe even have received an RFP from them. And these are some of the new logos that we acquired in 2026 in Q1. Now I say some of the new logos because, as with any big organisation, we have to go through a legal process of getting approval before we share such logos in external presentations. So that's why you might not necessarily see all of the new logos we've acquired on this slide, but just to give you a flavour, and again, hopefully you recognise these and may have even had an invite to their RFP already. Okay, so before I get into the data, as a reminder, it is the formerly Lanyon platform, Cvent Transient as it's now known. It's not a booking tool. So in terms of the data that I'm going to share, it is very much based on the negotiation period. And so ultimately what we see on our platform is everything interaction with those RFPs from the moment a corporation or a paid program, as Emma referred to it as, from the moment they send an RFP on the platform and they invite a hotel to participate. Typically there'll be some negotiation back and forth between you as hoteliers or suppliers and those buyers, and if everything goes well, your property will be accepted into the RFP program. Then you see that dotted line down the slide, because anything that happens after that, from the moment the rates are taken from the Cvent Transient platform and put into HotelREZ's CRS and then put on the GDS for loading, we don't see any of that. So anything that's booked, we don't have visibility of it. So any data that I share in the next coming slides is all going to be related to the negotiation process and the opportunity there. So with that in mind, let's look at the 2026 trends. So very high level, you can see top left for the 2026 contract period, we've had over 871,000 RFPs going through the platform. And they were generated from 1,200 unique, or more than 1,200 unique travel programs. So just to make the distinguishing point there, if Cvent were to launch an RFP program on the platform, for instance, and we invited 100 properties, that would be 100 in the top left in terms of 100 total RFPs, but it would be one unique travel program on the bottom left. Top right, you can see that over 95,000 hotels have received at least one invitation to a corporate RFP. And on the bottom right, you can see that over 1.4 million RFPs in total have been managed through the system. So the difference between that 1.4 million and the top left 871,000 is the 1.4 million includes the 871,000 that originated on Cvent, and it includes RFPs that have been imported in from other third-party platforms, like HotelREZ or ReadyBid or Vindo, etc. But a lot of business ultimately going through the platform at any one time. Now, there's a lot going on here, and apologies, I've made the numbers really small, so hopefully you can all see, and you might need to zoom in. But ultimately what we're looking at here is the seasonality. So you can see along the bottom there's a key that tells you 2024 contract year, 2025 contract year, and 2026 contract year so far. And the reason I say that, you can see along the bottom of the axes, January to December is referenced once, and then January to December a second time, and that's not a mistake. what we're looking at is the seasonality. So when are the RFPs launched for the different programme years? Now that 1st January to December represents sourcing that took place in the calendar year before the programme year or the contract year begins. So if we took 2024 as an example, that 1st January to December represents sourcing that happened in the calendar year of 2023 for the 2024 contract year. Similarly, if we look at the turquoise bars for 2025 contract year, that 1st January to December represents the sourcing that took place in 2024 calendar year for the 2025 contract year. So by and large, what we're saying ultimately is the majority of RFPs that are sourced on the platform, the majority of volume for any contract period typically happens in the July to November in the prior calendar year. Similarly, for 2026 in purple, most of the sourcing happened, most of the RFPs were sent between July and November of 2025 for the 2026 contract year. But what is also important to note is this continual RFP process, because the second set of January to December on the right hand side of the slide represents sourcing that happened in the year for the contract year. So of course we're just about to flip over into July of 2026, but this data for 2026 for purple, you can see that January to May data only, because we haven't included any June data in this, but you can see June through December on the right hand side of this screen that is representative of RFPs that came in the year for the contract year for both 2025 and 2024. And whilst the RFP volume is lower for obvious reasons, it does still exist. So we do expect that we will continue to receive RFPs throughout the rest of the 2026 calendar year for the 2026 contract year, even though you've possibly started to receive RFPs already for 2027 contract year, but 2026 is not yet complete ultimately. And if we compare, as of the end of May, how 2026 is pacing compared to 2025 and 2024, you can see with those red and blue lines that we are pacing ahead ultimately. So that's showing you the cumulative difference of all the RFPs. So at the end of May 2026, the 2026 RFP volume was pacing 8.8% of where we were the same time last year for the 2025 contract year, and we're 5.5% ahead of where we were same time 2 years ago for the 2024 contract year. Now, I appreciate that's a lot of information, and I hope that I've made that as clear as possible. But of course, please do drop any questions you have on the chat if that's unclear at all. Okay, so what we're looking at here is the distribution not only of buyers but also of RFPs. So on the left, this is given a breakdown of all the RFPs that came in so far in 2026. What buyer or industry verticals rather do they represent? So leading the way, we've got professional services and administration, and also manufacturing. They represent the majority of the buyers that source on the platform. On the right hand side, we can see how that distribution breaks down when it actually comes to the RFPs. So as an example, how you would interpret this is that, for instance, for business services, whilst business services is represented only by 13% of the buyers, they're obviously sending a lot of RFPs because they represent 19% of the total RFP volume. So it's really just to give you a sense check of the size of the programs that come through from the different buyers. Now here, what we're looking at is the habits of buyers when it comes to comparing the number of hotels invited to a program. So on this slide over on the left, we're looking at buyers globally that submitted an RFP in 2025 contract year and in 2026 contract year. And we're asking the question, did they keep their program size roughly the same or flat? Did they invite more properties to participate in the programme, or did they invite fewer hotels? Now you can see that there are 35%, so just over a third of those like-for-like programmes that actually consolidated the size of their programmes. And there's a couple of reasons for them doing that. In some cases, they might be looking at production and basically deciding, well, if we didn't get much production at those properties, then we're not going to keep them in the programme, we're going to remove them. But in some cases as well, it is ultimately due to cost, because from a buyer perspective, if there are less properties within a programme, there's less dilution of the potential room nights available to those properties that remain in the programme. Now, it's not all doom and gloom. As you can see, 37% of those like-for-like programmes did keep their programme roughly flat. They didn't change the size of the programme, and there was even 28% of those same buyers that increased the size of their programmes. Now, on the right, we're looking at those same metrics, but we're doing it by industry vertical and seeing where are we seeing more trends. So how you would interpret this as an example. If you looked at manufacturing, for instance, 42% of those like-for-like manufacturing programs reduced the size of their programs. So there was still 37% that remained roughly flat. But if you are working with a lot of manufacturing organisations and you receive their RFPs through the Cvent Transient platform, then how I would interpret this is make sure you do what hoteliers do best and work on those relationships, because if this is a trend that continues into the 2027 RFP season, and manufacturing and also professional services and administration, we can see there is another high balance of those that are potentially reducing the size of their programs. You don't want to be the hotels that get cut. So as with any of your relationships with corporations, just make sure you're always first and foremost in their minds when it comes to them sourcing. Make sure you're honing in on those relationships, because now is the time that they're going to be preparing for the next RFP season. Now here we're looking across global rates, both for transient, so corporate travel, as well as group rates, because many of you may know we also have a meetings and events platform that, other than this slide, we're not talking about today, but it's just really to give you a gauge on how we see the global rates for accepted RFPs vary between the segments. So transient rates, you can see they've really flattened out over the last few years, and they are by and large lower on average globally than those meetings and events rates. So not only are the meetings and events, or the group rates, booked at a higher rate on the platform, they also have a stronger, sharper trajectory, although even that is now starting to flatten out in the last 2 years, as you can see, between 2025 and 2026. Now, when it comes going back to corporate travel now, I'm not talking anymore about group rates, but in terms of rates accepted on the platform, ultimately there's a massive leaning and tendency towards fixed rates. Whether it's fixed LRA or fixed non-LRA, there are, and it does vary by market, but there is some dynamic rates being accepted. Dynamic with ceiling has not really hit the ground running, so to speak. They're not overly popular, probably more on the hotel side, candidly. But there are some buyers accepting dynamic rates, but generally speaking, they are leaning towards fixed, because of course it makes it easier for them in terms of budgeting and forecasting, and just being able to control costs when it comes to travel expenses. Okay, so we're going to give a high-level view of best practices now. Now, of course, Emma touched on some of those already, and one of the points that Emma made was about meetings and events. I haven't touched on that here, but what I would say from a buyer perspective is there is quite a lot of overlap between buyers that use the Cvent Transient platform to source for their corporate negotiated rates, but also buyers that use our meetings and events platform. So absolutely, as Emma suggested, if you do have, and you can provide discounts for meeting space at your property, I would encourage you to reference that, because it's only going to be a positive reflection for your property. Now, for other more generic best practices, what I would say is be concise in your responses. It's very tempting to tell the buyers all about these wonderful things that are happening at your property and any new changes, etc. But when it comes to responding to their questions, answer the question that has been asked, because people only have so much time. And, you know, in some cases, if it's just a yes or no answer, just give a yes or no response. Number 2, reviewing all the RFP documentation carefully. Make sure you understand exactly what they're expecting of you as a property. If there are any fees, etc., be aware of that, because what you don't want to do is go through that RFP process and then find out later there's fees and you've signed up for something but you don't want to pay the fees. It's not a great situation for anyone then, but buyers or suppliers equally. Third is to submit a bid even if there hasn't been past volume, because we saw before that there are some changes. Some buyers are inviting more hotels to the programme, some are downsizing. But from the buyer perspective, always be aware that they have to pay for every RFP that they submit. So there's a reason and there's generally intent as to why your property has been included on an RFP. So even if you haven't had volume in the past, know that some movement might be happening in this program. Maybe some hotels are coming out, they've still included you, so do submit a response, because it could be that if you're accepted, you may find that you are starting to get production from this account in future. Now I'm just conscious of time, Emma. Should I just pick out some highlights from here, or are you happy for me to go through all of them?
No, I think it's really important. I think all of these points are really crucial. So feel free, you're fine for time. So it's all good.
Sure. Okay, so number 4 then, if you are newly solicited, do your market research. Now, I think Emma touched on this before, but ultimately think about putting your best offer forward, especially if you've never been invited to an RFP before, or maybe if it's a market lead, because there are other hotels in on this program that have been invited. Don't make the mistake of thinking I'll just go in at the highest offer because I know I'm going to be able to negotiate back and forth and get to somewhere where I want. That doesn't always work. So go in with what is reasonable for your property, but also reasonable for the market, rather than aiming high and just hoping to get in. Number 5, include all required questions as valid answers. So a common bugbear on the buyer side is when a hotel submits a rate, for instance, for $9,999. It doesn't help the buyer and it won't help your property to get accepted. If it's not a rate or it's not a service that you can offer, then don't provide it, but don't put in bogus phone numbers just to get through the system and the RFP, because when it comes out the other end on the buyer side, then that has a massive impact on their reporting, but you'll stand out, your hotel will stand out for the wrong reasons. Number 6, make sure that you're loading rates and amenities consistently. This is almost repeated again in number 10, so I'll cover both at the same time. It's great that you're offering a buyer a valid, really reasonable offer for your property in a package with great amenities, etc. But make sure when it comes to loading them that they're consistent, because a great offer is only a great offer if when the buyer comes to book it, it's available on the GDS. If it's not, it's no good to man nor beast. So just make sure that you're very consistent in that information, and what you're loading onto the GDS, of course, reflects what you negotiated as part of that contract on the platform. Number 7, provide reasons if you don't want to decline a bid, or sorry, if you want to decline a bid, tell them why, especially if it's to do with the rate type. Maybe the buyer has said, we want fixed rates, but your hotel strategy for the next season is all about dynamic. Especially if this is an account that you've worked with in the past, let them know, sorry, we're declining because our strategy this year is to go for dynamic rates because we've noticed these increases in our market, etc., etc. But let them know, because if this is an account that is very keen still to work with your property, if they don't know why you've declined it, they will make the assumption that you just don't want to work with them. And then that could see you cancelled out of any future invitations from this particular customer or client. So let them know why, and it could be that they'll come back and say, okay, well, that's fair, we'd still like to work with this hotel, we've had lots of production, or we want to work with them even if it's a new hotel because. But if they don't know and you've simply declined the bid, their assumption quite rightly will be they're not interested, and then you could see you could be effectively closing the door on that any future opportunities with that buyer. Number 8, I don't think it really requires a lot of explanation, but do respond on time. Everyone has deadlines, and I appreciate as hoteliers when you're responding, you're probably, this isn't your only job and you're wearing a lot of hats and you're taking on a lot of responsibility. But the reality is the buyers are too, and they set a deadline because they need to do things by a certain time, and that helps them. It doesn't reflect well, candidly, if you're responding late and then contacting the buyer afterwards and saying, sorry, we didn't do it because, but we are still interested. Try and respond on time to all of those RFPs to help improve your chances of being accepted into those programs. And number 9 is to seek assistance if you're not sure, if you're not sure about what a buyer is asking for or why they're asking for it. This is where your relationships come in. Work with those accounts. If it's not an account that you necessarily have a relationship, but maybe HotelREZ does, ask them, because you shouldn't be afraid to ask questions. And I think in a lot of cases, buyers would prefer that they had some communication and a point could be clarified very quickly without just simply ignoring it, or worse, just declining an RFP because you're not sure again. So if you need help, just seek assistance there and ask questions. And I think 10 we covered was already as well with number 6.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. They're all really crucial points. Thank you for covering those off. I think we spend a lot of time orchestrating, trying to find new opportunities. And, I think sometimes you're right with, making sure that everybody is doing what they should be doing. There's nothing worse than it falling down in that final moment. Yeah. Here's how you can help with some other things though, right?
Absolutely. So I'll start in the middle with the RFP publishers. Now, this is our core solution. If your hotel is receiving a consistent volume of RFPs and you're not subscribed to RFP Publisher, it can be a very manual process to make sure you respond question by question with no ability to create predetermined rate plans, etc., to automate and speed up that process, making it more efficient. So for any hoteliers that aren't subscribed to RFP Publisher, that's where HotelREZ can support you with the RFP Publisher solution in terms of making your responses more efficient, your entire process is more effective during the busy RFP season. So again, that's the core solution that enables you to respond more effectively, have access to reports, but also pre-created rate plans, and there's no limit to those, so that you can be more consistent as well in your responses as you go through the RFPs. Now, the other two, proximity report and market leads, are all about gaining access to more corporate accounts. So proximity report is more like a prospecting tool. So if you think of that, and in fact, we can probably go, I think we're going to cover these on the next slides and go into them in more detail. In fact, Emma.
There we go.
Yes, proximity report, more of a prospecting tool. So pre-RFP season, if you wanted to understand which are the corporations that are sourcing into your market within a 5-10 kilometer radius, this will give you that information. On the buyer side, because of course we support the buyers and the suppliers on the Cvent Transient platform. On the buyer side, every year accounts will need to enter their points of interest, or ultimately their corporate addresses for where they're sourcing to travel to. So what we do is we geo-coordinate all of those points of interest, all those office locations, and then we cross-reference them with our hotel database. So we're able to provide you with a list and say, these are all the corporations that are sourcing within a 10-kilometer radius of your property. And you can, of course, sort by those that are on your doorstep and then branch out. But essentially, it's giving you access to understand who are the accounts that you should be tapping up, who should you be contacting, reaching out to, because of those potential local pieces of business that Emma spoke to you about earlier that maybe you weren't even aware of. So it's taking out that manual task of having to walk out to the hotel and go door knocking to find out who is there on your doorstep. Now, next up is, well, this is actually giving you a very sample, it's quite small, but it's giving you a sample visibility of the proximity report itself. So the first column talks about the corporation, then their address, then it will tell you how far away they are from your property, and it will tell you also, has that corporation ever invited your property to an RFP in the last RFP season? So you'll be able to see very quickly where that opportunity is for your property. RFP publisher, I talked about this already. Really, this is giving you visibility of all of your RFPs in one place, and it will tell you when the deadline is due. But ahead of the RFP season, you're able to create rate plans in advance so that you can streamline your RFP response process as you're going through and responding to those. And I think we look at the next slide as well that talks about those. That's the property view, and then the rate plan. So as I said, you can create unlimited rate plans that will give you the ability to respond more quickly and more efficiently during the RFP season, freeing up more time to do lots of other things that I'm sure all the individuals on this hotel have to do throughout the year. Then market leads is again about gaining access to new accounts. However, if proximity reports is a more proactive solution where we're giving you that list and you're going to go out and contact them, market leads is definitely more reactive. Now, from the buyer side, when they open up their program on our platform, they determine whether or not they'll be happy to accept unsolicited bids from hotels that they haven't directly invited, but the hotel itself meets the criteria of the buyer in terms of how far the hotel is from the corporate office that they're traveling to, and also the star rating. Because it could be that the buyer side have opened up an office in a market where they don't have any hotel inventory, they don't necessarily have any reporting information, but they still want a negotiated rate with the property. Maybe they have a chain-wide agreement with a Hilton or a Marriott, but they want to open up the opportunity for more properties. It's a bit like auctioning off their business, so to speak. And so what they can do is say that they'll accept the unsolicited bids, and as hotels, you would only receive a market lead if your property ticked the boxes to that criteria. So in terms of distance again, and also star rating. So again, good way to gain access to accounts that weren't necessarily inviting you directly, but you are qualified based on the criteria that they set. If you're interested in any of the solutions that we covered off there, then I would just encourage you to contact your HotelREZ account manager, and they have preferred rates with Cvent, so you'll get a severely discounted rate than if you were to come to Cvent directly. And of course, you get all the support then from the HotelREZ team, who are amazing.
Thank you, Laura. I thought that was really, really great. Really detailed information. And a skip through all the different bits that you've got there. Thank you so much. I just want to sort of loop back into the conversation around business cases and sourcing. I've got a really great announcement, guys. Through some really careful sort of work and reviews that we've done, I really did feel the need to set up something back of house that you can tap into to help you with your own global sourcing needs. So I feel like I need a drum roll. I will now be launching a new global sourcing support desk for the 2027 season, which is great news for you. We want to provide a more consultative support service for our hotels that are driving to find more business. One of the things that you can do is you can book a consultative appointment with us. We have our dedicated email address here, which is globalsales@hotelrez.com. We want to really help you unpick what's going to be the right direction for you to take. You've seen today with some of the reports and tools that Cvent have got, and you know that back of house we also have some similar reporting that can really help you to understand what's in your market. I also loved all the slides Laura showed us on all the industry verticals. We have some of our information that's displayed in that way as well. There is a dedicated business case guide in the member portal that you can just download if you don't feel you need the full support of a global sourcing desk. But you know, some of you have come to me and you've needed more bespoke help, and so we see you, we recognise that's a service that you're needing more support with. So get in touch if you want some help and come and talk to us. Here's a quick example of how we work with you on preparing business cases. We have this example in our guide, and it does give you the opportunity to say where the target officers are and also expand on some of the other data that you can carefully pick out through the various reporting tools that we've talked through today. Of course, you can put your offer forwards. And if you are part of a group, maybe you prefer a more sort of generic template that allows you to pitch for more than one of your properties in a more centralised solution. So just before we wrap up and talk about key takeaways and what's next, I thought I'd give you my little diary of events coming up throughout now the next 6 months of the year. Can we even believe we're saying that? So the first RFP releases have already started, and we expect more to start to drop in throughout July and August. Things are starting to build. Ensure you've updated your content, make sure your blackout dates are done, and do refer to Hannah's wonderful tutorials that she's prepared for you to help you really step through what you need to do. Global consortia releases will start. We've got some dedicated webinars coming up. We've got one with American Express that's due to happen early August, so look out for the notification on that. It'll be coming out soon. During September and October we'll be in full swing, and now you know every desk has every day we have the surgery desk, I call it. The demand desk turns into surgery desk, and of course we are there to help support you with all of your questions regarding RFPs. So reach out to us on the global sales desk and also through the demand team. Secondary programs will start to come out, so the likes of the BCD programs, FCM programs, etc. Do take note of those and complete them. Generally, they're mostly free of charge to do, and they do give you a really good high viewership on their booking platforms. So the secondary programs are always worth considering. We may do an extra session on that. I'm just in talks about that one. Final consortia bids will be coming out during September, October. And then as we move into the latter end of the year, brace yourselves, because the next round of UK government bid will be due out in December. So just when we thought we could all have a Merry Christmas, we'll be hard working on releasing that one out to you and making sure we're consulting with you throughout that period. Don't forget as well, during November and December is where we see the bulk of the renegotiations and acceptances happen during a bid cycle. So please feel free to keep logging into the platform and checking your bid outcomes. We have a wide team at HotelREZ, different departments, people you can reach out to. We've referred to some of them today in our chatters. So the support team, where you can get help with your reservations, training on something, passwords, Cvent access, reach out to support if it's a rate loading question you have, or dedicated support you require for rate loading. We have a dedicated desk for them. Our finance team have got their own dedicated desk as well, so an email address so you can speak with the team. Demand and RFPs is my team, and of course we've got that global sourcing desk outlet for you as well, which is a separate email address, globalsales@hotelrez.com. Your general queries can come into the demand team as normal. Marketing support, tell us all your news stories, anything you want to raise with us, any special help you need for the marketing side, have a dedicated support email address there for that one. And CRO and bookings again has their dedicated address, as does our wonderful account management team, who you can reach out to discuss any pricing that Laura has mentioned as regards her tools. So that's ways to get in touch. And also you can give us a follow on our various platforms and brands. Do check out our Elegant Hotels of the World website if you get a moment, because it's had just a big facelift and looking amazing. Here's what we look like. if you haven't met us before. And here is myself, Fran, Hannah and Phoebe, and we run the demand desk. That's how you can get hold of us. We are looking forward to working with you all during the RFP season. I'm just going to close off, stop sharing, and just go back to the chat. So I hope that was of interest. If there are any questions in the chat box, we can have a little look and see. I don't know if there's if anyone's actually raised anything. Okay, we've got somebody querying how to access with Cvent, so we can pick that up a little later, no problem. Does anybody have any questions for us? I think you might need to unmute. Hannah, if you could have a little look at that for us and see if you can unmute the lines, see if there's any questions. Feel free to type in the questions and answers chat box, guys. Our hour is almost nearly up. Can you believe it? I really enjoyed that. It was brilliant. Thank you, Laura. You're amazing.
You're more than welcome. You're more than welcome.
Isn't it funny how we're so immersed in what we do? You know, it's great to see some of those figures and the uplift in, you know, in all of the, well, basically in everything that we're doing. It's great to see the bids still coming through, going strong, firing themselves out there. Great to see some new agencies like Intel utilising the tool for this season as well. That brings, honestly, so much joy to my demand team's desk. As it was quite a manual process back of house for us before. So if we do have anybody needing any particular help, please feel free to reach out. There's lots of thank yous coming through. So that's good. I think we did well. I think we could take a little pause and a bow and say thank you so much for joining us, guys. If you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Laura, thank you. From all of us on the desk, we appreciate your support, and
you're welcome.
If anybody does have any, I'm sure my sourcing desk email is going to go bonkers. What can I say? Okay, guys, we'll let you go. We'll cut off, and thank you so much for joining us today. All right, we'll see you next time. Take care.
Bye
bye.